My name is Aaron. In the fall of 2022, I was a film student in Chicago, drowning in debt. I found an ad online that promised easy money for simple work. I thought I was lucky. I didn't know that I was being hired to document my own nightmare. The job was simple: digitize a collection of home movies. The pay was $50 an hour, cash. I met the employer, a man named Mr. Calloway, at his house. It was a large, brick, two-story house at the end of a cul-de-sac. It looked normal. Manicured lawn, nice car in the driveway. Mr. Calloway was in his 60s, soft-spoken, wearing a cardigan. He looked like a grandfather. He offered me tea. He told me he was moving to a smaller home and needed his family memories preserved on a hard drive before he threw away the old VHS tapes. "The equipment is in the basement," he said, smiling warmly. "It's soundproofed down there. I used to play the drums, you see. You'll have total peace and quiet to work." I followed him down. The basement was finished, but it was strange. The walls were covered in acoustic foam, the jagged black kind. There were no windows. In the center of the room was a heavy steel desk with a stack of VCRs, a computer, and a massive pile of unlabeled VHS tapes. "Here are the rules, Aaron," Mr. Calloway said. His tone shifted slightly. It wasn't warm anymore. It was clinical. 1. Do not watch the tapes. Just hit record on the computer, hit play on the VCR, and wait for it to finish. 2. Do not come upstairs until 4 a.m. I am a light sleeper. 3. Keep the door closed. He pointed to the heavy steel door at the top of the stairs. "I'll pay you when you finish the stack," he said. He walked upstairs. I heard the heavy door close. I paused. That sounded like a lock. I walked up the stairs and tried the handle. It turned. It wasn't locked, just heavy. I scolded myself for being paranoid. "It's $50 an hour, Aaron. Just do the work." I went back down to the desk and picked up the first tape. It was labeled 1998. I put it in the VCR and hit play. I watched the capture screen on the computer. It was boring stuff. A kid's birthday party, a family picnic. Mr. Calloway looked younger, happy. I relaxed. It was legitimate. I worked for 3 hours. The room was dead silent thanks to the soundproofing. The air was recycled and stale. Around 1 a.m., I picked up a tape from the bottom of the stack. This one wasn't labeled with a year. It just had a piece of masking tape on it that said, "The Visitor." I shrugged and popped it in. The video started. It wasn't a home movie. It was shaky, handheld footage, filmed at night. It showed a view from inside a car looking out at a house. I leaned closer to the screen. The house looked familiar. It was my apartment building. On the screen, the camera zoomed in on a second-floor window. My window. Through the glass, I could see a figure sitting at a desk, typing on a laptop. It was me. I checked the timestamp on the video. October 12th, 2022. 2 days ago. My heart started hammering against my chest. I fast-forwarded the video. The camera view changed. Now the person holding the camera was inside an apartment. My apartment. They were walking through my living room when I wasn't there. They filmed my toothbrush. They filmed my sleeping roommate on the couch. Then the camera turned to a mirror in the hallway. The person holding the camera was Mr. Calloway. He wasn't smiling. He was wearing black latex gloves. He stared into the mirror and whispered something. I turned the volume up on the computer. "Candidate number 4. He seems desperate." I ejected the tape. My hands were shaking so bad I dropped it on the floor. I grabbed the next tape. It was labeled "The Interview." I put it in. The video showed a view from a hidden camera. It was high up, maybe inside a vent. It showed the front porch of Mr. Calloway's house. It showed me standing on the porch earlier that evening, ringing the doorbell. Then the angle changed. It showed me sitting in the living room, drinking the tea he gave me. Then the angle changed again. It showed the basement, the room I was currently sitting in. But the angle was from behind me. I spun around in my chair. Directly behind me, on the wall covered in acoustic foam, there was a small, dark circle, a lens. I was being watched, live. "Mr. Calloway," I yelled. "I'm leaving. Unlock the door." I ran up the stairs to the steel door. I grabbed the handle. It wouldn't budge. "Open the door," I screamed. I pounded on the metal. It was solid. Then the computer downstairs made a sound. I walked slowly back down the stairs. The computer monitor had changed. The video capture software was closed. A video call window was open. It was a live feed of Mr. Calloway. He was sitting in his kitchen drinking tea. He was wearing a headset. "Sit down, Aaron." His voice boomed through the basement speakers. I stared at the camera in the wall. "What is this? Let me out." "The archiving isn't finished," Mr. Calloway said calmly. "We haven't recorded the ending yet." "What ending?" "The part where candidate number 4 realizes he isn't the archivist," Calloway smiled. "He's the content." He pressed a button on his keyboard. Suddenly, a hidden door in the corner of the basement, one I hadn't noticed because of the foam padding, clicked open. I looked inside. It was a small concrete cell. There was a bucket, a mattress, and stains on the floor. Dark brown stains. "Get in the room, Aaron," Calloway said, "or I turn off the ventilation fans. It takes about 20 minutes to run out of oxygen down there." I looked at the ventilation grate on the ceiling. It was already silent. He had cut the air. I looked at the heavy VCR on the desk. It was an old industrial model, solid metal. "I'm not getting in the room," I whispered. "Then you can suffocate," Calloway said. He reached for his tea. I grabbed the VCR. I ripped the cords out of the back. I knew he was watching me. I knew he felt safe behind his screen upstairs. But he had made a mistake. The acoustic foam. I grabbed the VCR and ran to the wall next to the door. Not the steel door, but the drywall covered in foam. I knew the layout of these suburban houses. The basement walls weren't all concrete. The wall next to the stairs usually led to a crawl space or the garage. "What are you doing?" Calloway asked. He sounded annoyed. I screamed and slammed the corner of the VCR into the wall. The foam tore. The drywall crumbled. "Stop that!" Calloway yelled. He stood up on the screen. I hit it again and again. I punched a hole big enough to see through. On the other side was the unfinished part of the basement, the utility room. And in the utility room, there was a window well. I squeezed through the hole, tearing my shirt, scratching my skin on the jagged drywall. I fell onto the concrete floor of the utility room. I scrambled over the water heater. I heard the steel door at the top of the finished basement stairs fly open. Calloway was coming, and he had a gun. "You ruin everything!" he shrieked. He didn't sound like a grandpa anymore. He sounded like a monster. I climbed up the window well. I punched the glass. It didn't break. It was reinforced. I looked down. Calloway was crawling through the hole I made in the wall. He was stuck for a second. I grabbed a loose brick from the window well ledge and smashed the window. I pulled myself up into the backyard. The cold night air hit my face. I didn't stop. I jumped the back fence and ran through the neighbors' yards. I ran until I hit the main road and flagged down a police cruiser. They raided the house 20 minutes later. Calloway was gone. His car was gone. But they searched the basement. They found the tapes, hundreds of them. Candidate 1, Candidate 2, Candidate 3. The police watched them. They were snuff fills. Calloway had been luring students to his house for years, trapping them in that soundproof basement and filming them as they starved or, worse. They found the concrete cell hidden behind the wall. The stains on the floor matched the DNA of 3 missing college students from Chicago. But here is the part that keeps me up at night.
A month later, I was staying at my parents' house, trying to recover. I got an email. It was from an anonymous address. The subject line was, "Edit 4, rough cut." I opened it. It was a video file. It was footage of me escaping, footage of me smashing the wall, footage of me climbing out the window. He had filmed my escape. And at the end of the video, Calloway's voice narrated over the black screen. Candidate 4 proved resourceful. The chase sequence will add excellent production value to the sequel. See you soon, Aaron. The IP address of the email was traced to a library in Seattle. He's moving west. I legally changed my name. I don't work in film anymore, and I don't look at job boards, because I know that somewhere out there, a director is still trying to cast the final scene of his movie.